and discuss on the topic, Report Card of the New Normal. This is the first webinar of week 12 and I'm very much excited to introduce our panelists. And I also want to share that I have joined this conversation with my energy drink. And that's my all-time favorite masala chai. So let's ask our panelists about their favorite hot beverage. Are they a coffee person or a chai lover? Let's start with Dhriti Malhotra ma'am, Director Principal, Manav Rachna International School, Sector 46, Gurugram. With almost decades of rich experience behind her, she has earlier held the reins of Ryan International School, Vasant Kunj, New Delhi, and Scottish High International School, Gurugram as the principal. Welcome, ma'am. Please tell us, what do you drink to bring back your energy? Kindly unmute, ma'am.
Okay, somebody muted me. All right. My favorite drink is, of course, tea. I'm an all-time tea lover. And well, at the moment, my teacup has a storm of thoughts, a storm of views, wherein whatever is happening, whatever we now consider the new normal, is it actually the new normal? Thank you.
That's great, ma'am. Moving on to our next panelist, Anuradha Handa, ma'am, Principal, GD Goenka Public School, Sector 48, Gurugram. She has a career spanning over 2 decades with enriching experiences as Vice Principal at Amity International School, Noida, and at APJ School, Saket, New Delhi. Welcome, ma'am. Please let us know what is there in your cup and what makes it special.
Thank you, Astha. I also am a tea person, but yes, I believe in an absolutely steaming hot tea, which is strong, because I feel that tea is supposed to serve a certain purpose. And similarly, everything in life is supposed to serve a certain purpose, and it needs to fulfill that. So it's only hot tea which gives you that energy. It is that flavor which refreshes you. Similarly, everything that we do in life, we must fill it with the necessary flavor and it must fulfill the desired purpose. That's what my hot cup of tea means for me. Thank you.
Wonderfully portrayed, ma'am. Thank you so much. Our next panelist is Dr. C.B. Mishra, Director and Principal, Prudence School, Ashok, Vihar, Delhi. Dr. Mishra is determined and focused educationist, having experience in the field of education for more than 25 years, from teaching to being principal and consultant to startups to running a school. Welcome, sir. What is the secret drink in your cup today?
I'm also good evening to all. I have also the tea, masala tea, you can say, just like Anuradha and madam. And I'm also enjoying this cup. Basically, you can say number of signatures are there. This cup is given by my ex-students, basically, which basically mention is who educate the children well are more to be honored than parents. And for this only gave life is art of living well on the Happy Teachers Day. So we are all happy and we are the coronavirus. That's why I'm taking tea of. Thank you.
That's wonderful, sir. Thank you. Our next panelist is Mandavi Tripathi, ma'am, Principal, Lucknow International Public School, Lucknow. Ma'am has over 19 years of excellent work experience in the field of education. Ma'am has worked as a principal and vice principal in renowned brands of education industry like GD Goenka, Dr. Virendra Saroop Educational Foundation, etc. Welcome, ma'am. That's wonderful. Ma'am, tea or coffee? Kindly unmute, ma'am. Manvi, ma'am, please unmute.
Yeah, hi, Astha. Thank you so much. And very good evening to all the panelists. I must say that the time says build up your immunity. And that's why I'm going with a green tea right now in my hand. Boosting immunity because we have to fight the pandemic and rest. We need to give the message loud and clear that this time we need to keep ourselves fit. So I have a green tea in my hand. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, that's indeed, the message is the need of the hour. Thank you so much. Our next panelist is Ritu Bali, ma'am, Principal, AKSIPS School, Chandigarh. Ms. Ritu Bali is a meticulous, diligent, and a confident individual with over 29 plus years of experience. Ma'am also received the Avantika Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Award in 2019. Congratulations, ma'am. Welcome. What is brewing in your cup?
It's actually hot water, and because, like, ma'am, I'm not much of a tea and a coffee drinker. The water in my cup is absolutely clear and warm, and I'm hoping that it will keep the discussion today hydrated, and we have a warming session also with everyone. Thank you, and hi to everybody.
Definitely, ma'am. Thank you so much. Moving on to our next panelist, Seema Behl, ma'am, Principal, Brain International School, Vikaspuri, New Delhi. During her work life, she has accumulated over 24 years of teaching and administrative experience. She has always believed in instilling the right values in her students through constant relevant activities and evolving her students as competitive individuals and not just academic masters. Welcome, ma'am. What are you having today?
Thank you. My favorite drink is black coffee, and I think it gives me a lot of energy. And with the same energy, I hope we're going to be discussing things hereafter today. Thank you.
Absolutely, ma'am. Thank you so much. Last but not the least, we have Sudeshna Sharma, ma'am, Principal, Banyan Preschool, Chandigarh. A strong-headed, focused, and hardworking personality who has been giving her all into the education line for the past 27 years. Welcome, ma'am. What do you prefer to have?
Thank you, Asta. Thank you so much. Yes, I have black coffee with me. Of course, as Seema ma'am said, it's an energy booster. But black coffee is a life phenomenon for me. I love originality. So black coffee without sugar, without milk, that's the secret of my energy. Thank you.
Wonderful, ma'am. Thank you so much. Before we move further, I would also want to know what is our audience's favorite beverages. For this, we have a quick poll coming up on your screen right now. I request all the audience and panelists to answer the questions in 30 seconds. So here is the poll. The first question says, what is your preferred high tea time? So CB sir, if I ask you what is your preferred high tea time, what it would be? Please unmute, sir.
Between 5:30 to 6 p.m.
5:30 to 6 p.m. Great. Okay. Anuradha ma'am, what would you prefer drinking during the high tea? Ma'am, please unmute, as you have already shared that you need hot piping tea. So, ma'am, please unmute.
Yeah. So I prefer a classic tea.
Great, great, ma'am. So where do we enjoy our high tea? I think most of us enjoy that at home. So let's see what our audience have to say about this. Can we have the results, please? Okay, so 5 to 5:30 is the preferred high tea time for 52% of the audience here. What they prefer is classic tea, 68% of them. And then 95% of them enjoy their high tea at home. So that's great. I think that teachers and tea have a strong bond, as ma'am already explained that. So wonderful. Moving on. I request all the audiences to keep writing your questions in Q&A box, as we are going to have Q&A session towards the end of the webinar. So the topic of today's webinar is report card of the new normal. And I request all the panelists to share their thoughts and opinions in 5 minutes. We also have a buzzer to remind the panelists that 4 minutes are over. Hope that will be helpful. Now I request Dhriti ma'am to kickstart the conversation. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Asta. We are calling it the report card of the new normal. Why? Because suddenly everything has turned topsy-turvy. What we thought was normal is now not normal at all. I mean, we are, say, for example, we look at assessments, which earlier used to play a big role in the learning teaching system, where a lot of physical assessments were happening in the brick and mortar schools. But now where are we? We are sitting virtually, sitting the way you and me are, the audiences and the panelists, and we are here to discuss what exactly is the report card of the new normal, wherein there are a few things that we keep in mind and we keep discussing on. We Is it that we have to now rethink our examination system? Again, earlier it used to be something else. Now it's going to be something else. How are we approaching, as we approach the college admissions, are our children ready? We've been actually in a kind of a limbo whether the exams are going to happen or not happen. So how are the students going to get ready for the college admissions? Then, of course, the road ahead for our class, this class 2021, which graduates. Then the ideal assessment system. I think this is what I feel is the most important part right now of the discussion, where we are going to be discussing what are the ideal assessment systems for a hybrid education, which is a good mixture of maybe a virtual teaching or a physical teaching. So we will move to our panelists, and I would request Anuradha ma'am. Anuradha ma'am from GD Goenka Public School to put some light on the report card of the new normal. Over to you, Anuradha.
Yeah. Thank you, Dhriti ma'am. And it's a real pleasure to be deliberating on a topic which is very close to the heart of all educators, and that is assessment. You know, ever since we've grown up as children, or in my 30 years that I carry of experience of being with children, assessments have become such an integral, and they have always been such an important part of education process, that somewhere, you know, we feel that sometimes the fear of assessment takes the joy of learning away. There is a question that we really need to ask ourselves today, that the kind of assessments that we have been doing, are they really causing the love for learning in children, or are they becoming a fear factor, or is it more of a display of the performance of the child? Because effectively any assessment is meant to find out the level of learning of a child, but is that being truly done? So I would just like to talk about that, you know, there are three types of assessment models. One is assessment of learning. Now that's what primarily we've been doing, the summative assessment as we call, that whatever the child has done over a term, over a semester, that is what is assessed, how much you learn, how much you remember, how much you recall. Whether the child has dwelled deep into topics or not is not something that we are able to find out very effectively. Let's own that up. And also, the purpose of education is not just scholastic enhancement. It is more to do with building the skills and competencies. And that's precisely what the CBSE has also come out with. They have been dwelling on it. But now I think in the new normal, that is one thing that we have been able to really deliberate upon. So what is the model of assessment that we are really looking for? We have to move on from assessment of learning to be emphasizing equally on assessment for learning, meaning an assessment which motivates a learner to learn, an assessment where a teacher is using pedagogies and techniques and tools to assess the level of learning and modifying them in order to cause that interest in the child. And when that happens, you know, the children start enjoying their learning. The moment they start enjoying their learning, they don't mind being assessed. You see, if a student understands this very basic thing, that whatever I'm learning is going to do me good, it is evolving me as an individual, it is equipping me, it is adding the necessary skills for me to do well in life. And from that perspective, who would not want to know where do I stand? And once that feeling sets into an individual, into a student, I think assessment will no longer be a fear or something that the children run away from. And let's own up that a lot of time, because of the fear of assessment, the children are not enjoying doing what they are doing. And the next stage of assessment is assessment as learning, meaning where the children will themselves, you know, it is metacognitive. So where a child reflects upon, how am I learning? Is this the best way for me to learn? they engage in discussions, they engage in reflections, they go deeper into things. And we have to bring our assessments to that level so that the whole process of education is a process of evolution and preparation of children for future, because we have entered into the domain of education with a certain vision, and that vision is preparation for future. Now, how do you do that? I think this is the best time to really do that. I mean, as a school at GD Goenka, we've been doing that. For example, I'll give you one recent example where we have engaged our children into research-based projects. Because research helps you relate to what is happening in the world. You make connections with the world. Education, the best way to learn is through experience. So, having connected children with research, with collaborative work, and brought in parents as stakeholders to, not only help the child, but also be able to guide them and be able to support them and be able to judge them. I mean, I've had children coming and asking, ma'am, how do we take our research forward? A class 10 student coming and asking. And they did not mind being assessed at all. So that love for learning can come if we emphasize on assessment for learning and move it to assessment as learning, because that is the need of the hour. I think with that, we will create good human beings, because humanity is the best. Humanity is what we need to teach to our children. If they are good individuals, good human beings, everything else will fall in place. So that is my take on the report card of future. I hope I've been able to keep myself brief and follow the time limit. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Anuradha. We now move on to Dr. C.B. Mishra, Director Principal, Prudence School, Ashok, Bihar, for his inputs, please.
Good evening to all of you. First of all, I very well said, Madam Anuradha. Assessment is three types, you can say: learning of assessment, learning for assessment, and learning as assessment. But before learning, we are supposed to understand why the learning is there and why we are going to assess. In my view, the new normal basically required knowledge construction instead of knowledge acquisition. And with this pandemic set of transform education, we require the huge challenge before us, as well as the room for innovation. As Madam has also said regarding the research, basically research-based education. COVID-19 is bringing about the whole set of new challenges in every possible realm for the school and higher education, being just one. With the rapidly evolving the situation around the pandemic, and has forced shift from offline to online mode of teaching learning and give us a peek into the reality ahead. So how will COVID-19 transform the future of teaching learning right now in the future? Basically, this is the very, it's a critical question right now. Technology enabled teaching is definitely the future we are looking toward, but will be the easy to make it this transit? How should the different stakeholders contribute to ensure the smooth transactions? Right now, in different courts, basically, they are saying that children are not able to sit on the Zoom classes for a longer period of time. So it is important to identify the key challenges for students and teachers in the current scenario. And once identify the academic leadership, and the government can address this through the innovation and focus area. And I'm giving some of the examples. This is my view, basically. I cannot say this I'm giving this suggestion to the open platform. We are supposed to transform our education system in the yearly mode to the semester mode for the school also, and for the you can say universities also. So when we transfer from the mode of annual to semester, it will definitely help out some in one way or another way. Next, basically, the focus area is academic plan need to be modified in order to suit the current situation. When you are planning for the 6 months, you can definitely plan for the next for the better 6 months. Right now, the 6 months, you cannot planning for the next 6 months. You are planning for the next way. Every teacher is not planning way how they are going to cover the syllabus, how they are going to cover the curriculum basically of the board they are giving. So when we have the academic plan need to be modified in order to suit the current situation, changing both teaching and assessment method, and shift from offline to online method, which should be encouraged, building technology infrastructure to deliver content strengthening, and it should be existing by the MHRD content platform like Swim, another platform which is open, basically, you can say. And it is promoting innovative personalized teaching learning platforms. And teaching learning platform is not a Swim. Basically, there are so many platforms open to the given by the HRD also, and some of the private platforms are also there. Their teachers training and students aware like the key. And in the long run, this investment will help to ensure personalized learning teaching method in the classroom also and the residents also, basically, you can say, along with reducing the workload of the teacher also. However, tech models pose a huge scalability challenges given by the limited internet perceptions. Hence, blend of traditional online teaching and teaching learning could be emerged out of whole feasible and scalable model, basically, because we do not have the internet facility at the villages area and some of the area. Right now in Delhi also we are facing somewhere the internet problem. So government should have to provide certain technology based before we are trying. The technology should be in that way. And psychological, first of all, one of the more problem is that psychological disturbance among the teachers also, among the students also, among the parents also, due to the economic and other position also. And the challenge is that in the normal or faculty and students undergo the stress because of the uncertainty and not being able to carry out all these things. And how we can go all these things basically in the different form. That basically we require the assessment in a different way. We are supposed to build a robust infrastructure that can enable teaching, learning, ensuring both students and teachers are fully equipped with a digital transformation in education. Create three-way communication channel between students, teacher, and the government, which operate offline, online, and bridge the teacher learning gaps in area without the internet access also. Maybe internet is not available to everywhere, so that's why it is required. And relax the criteria policies for the institutions to offer online and hybrid degrees, basically, and they will enable board and university to cater a much wider audience in two-tier and three-tier cities, basically making degree certification much more economical and logical easier. Because we cannot compare Delhi region to any village area or the village area to the Delhi region. So we are supposed to make it two-tier, three-tiers like this, and boost the council and teacher capacity to provide the psychological support within the institution, catering to growing mental health issues. Teacher must train to understand their students' mental health needs also, and build, maintain, and fund entrepreneurial ecosystem in school and universities, leading a job creation in the short term and boosting the economy in future. Right now, everywhere we are saying the economic problem is there. So we have to suppose to fund entrepreneurship also should be there, and increase the upper cap of financial support to biotech research projects for this COVID-19 and this type of things. We are supposed to also push collaboration for the interdisciplinary research and all these things, and also for set up the disaster management research center in school and university also. Just like Madam also said, we require the research-based education. And I request this thing, the assessment can be done by any way. Assessment is not required. We are not the judge, basically. The teachers and the school authorities are not the judge. So here, assessment can be done by the self, maybe by peer, maybe teacher, and by the technology. I think it should be 360-degree learning for portfolio. And I think I have taken some seconds more. Thank you to all, and over to Madam.
Thank you, Dr. Seema Mishra. Of course, you are talking about innovation, you're talking about semester system, you're talking about collaboration. These are probably the key words of the future now. Right. Thank you so much. If we go to our second poll, Astha.
Yes, ma'am. So for the audiences out there who are there listening to all of the panelists, this is the second poll of the evening for you. And like earlier, we get 30 seconds or so to answer the question, and panelists can also vote. Can we have the poll on the screen, please? So it says, how do you think the examinations will be conducted in the future? Only in school, only online, combination of in-school and online examination both, or can't say? So Sudeshna ma'am, what is your take on this? Ma'am, kindly unmute.
It has to be on on the process of blended learning. So it has to be in school and online. There is no two way about it. We cannot just fix to one thing, the traditional method or the advanced one. we have to have a combination of both. So I feel it's both.
That's absolutely right, ma'am. Seema ma'am, would you like to add something to it?
I think it's absolutely correct because we'll have to go in with the combination of both. We cannot go back to the traditional classrooms or traditional ways of assessment now that we've come online. We will have to have a blended approach.
So that's absolutely true. Let's see what our audience have to say. Can we have the results, please? Okay, so 80% of them are in sync with what our panelists also think. It should be a combination of both school and all night long examination. Yes. Wonderful. So I think that we are on the same track and the panelists' jobs are going to be easy now. Over to you, Dhriti ma'am.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So again, we heard Anuradha, we heard Dr. C.B. Mishra. We are now ready to hear out Miss Mandavi Tripathi, Principal, Lucknow International Public School, on her thoughts, keeping again the report card of the new normal. What is it that we are slowly moving towards? Over to you, Mandavi.
Please unmute.
I've just read a quote of Alvin Toffler. Thank you, Dhriti ma'am. Thank you for this. The illiterate of the 21st century is not the person who cannot read and write. Rather, it will be a person who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So that's the time at this point of time that we need to focus upon, that our children who were not trained, we were intermittently using e-learning at this point of time through ERPs or other modes or on special occasions, but e-learning was not our basic pedagogy. But now in this pandemic time, as we have shifted towards this, I think this is the high time when a student, school student, to be nimble and to be innovative. And same goes with the teachers even, that this is the high time that we can be innovative regarding our pedagogy. So C.B. Mishra has well said that this is the time that not even teachers and students, but as of parents also need to cooperate with the schools and the new learning pedagogy and accept it, that this will be in for the future. Secondly, the school needs to work upon their infrastructure also so that sound learning can take place. So the infrastructure, tech-enabled learning should be enabled by schools also. He has, Mr. C.B. Mishra also focused upon the three-way communication system, which is mandate at this point of time between the parent, teacher, as well as the school. So this communication has to be strong. The mental health has to be taken care of. But the most important is the teacher as well as the student has to be very resourceful and has to think out of the box at this point of time, because this is what is going to save us. You have to brainstorm on the most innovative solutions and approaches. We have to shift now from a regular offline mode to an online mode with the combination of the traditional methodology that we were using, because that has to create a balance. And unless and until we secure that balance, I don't think it will be a success, because you know how the Indian traditional setup is. So we have to create a blend of the traditional setup as well as the online pedagogy that right now we are adopting too. So the disruption of the pandemic, I can say very well, has created a real life laboratory. We all are experimenting, and this is going nationwide at this point of time. So the government also needs to peep in and find out and create new opportunities for students who are looking forward for admission. I think a few days back, I saw IIT Madras has changed the way they are taking admissions. They have started taking online admissions also. So till now, it never happened and they waited. But now it was on the screen. We saw it on the Facebook that it's happening. So the aim of today's reform is not to downgrade the achievement of the students who are doing well with grades. Like upcoming examinations will also come up, and there will be a lot of results that will be coming 10th and 12th, what CBSE we are waiting for. But now we have to test the students on the holistic admission. Has to be the pedagogy even in the colleges and all. It cannot be just grade oriented at this point of time. The children who are seeking in admission, You don't have to see that what marks they have to score, whether they have a strong academic record or not, test scores are good or not, extracurricular engagement is fine or not. But what we call as a holistic admission approach, we have to shift to that approach, and we have to evaluate students on different levels and an overall, aggregate of their personality. I think Sir has rightly said that at this time, pandemic time, we need to also evaluate the mental health of the students. So the counselors have to be on the tip, that they maintain a wonderful 3-tier relationship between the parent, the child, as well as the school. The teachers also need to boost their capacity, and even their session should be taken up. Plus, there is a lot of financial cost that the school has to incur at that time. That must also be seen by the institutions. We should increase upper cap or over financial support for research projects, and also that the schools can also, government should also provide some kind of aids because of these fees issues that are cropping up in schools. And digital transformation, of course, in higher education is also required. We need to build a entrepreneurial ecosystem also in universities, and leading job creation in short run and boosting the economy in future. That is also very much required. And interdisciplinary research is also one thing that I would like to say, that we should motivate, as ma'am also said, Anuradha ma'am said, that we should check the assessment patterns and we should see. So why not go for interdisciplinary research even in schools and promote that? I thank you, everybody, and I hope I addressed all the issues.
Thank you, Mandavi. That was fantastically put across.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Right. Can we now have Ritu Bali, principal? How do I pronounce it?
AKSIPS 41.
AKSIPS School.
Yeah, AKSIPS 41.
Wonderful. Is it a short form of?
Yeah, it's a short form. It's actually, the full name is Ajit Karam Singh International Public School. It's been named after the founder of the school. Ms. Karam Singh was a national award winner, and Chandigarh, people who are of my generation and are 10 years ahead of me, they probably have studied under her, because she was one of the very well-known, renowned principal of government model school.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So your views, please. Yes, your views.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. I've been hearing everyone. And to be honest, what I want to start with is, I believe all of us are going to the schools every day. And I think the thing that all of us are missing the most is the laughter and the chit chat of our children. And but one thing I need to add here, that I've seen teachers, there was a time, I remember a time when I used to hear my cousins in corporate sector talking about work from home. And I always used to wonder, can a teacher ever do that? It's impossible. This was normally the answer. And today, we teachers have actually proved it wrong. We have made it work from home from teachers is an option and can be done. And the way the teachers have, metamorphosed, I've seen teachers struggling with the use of computers and staying away from laptops, how they have managed to conduct online classes. That's amazing. So right now we've been talking about what is the right, I feel, while talking about online and offline classes, I would prefer the hybrid learning is much better option, because blended learning is, you're almost having an equal kind of a division there. But hybrid will be much better, because we need to find a right mix, for our children. And to be honest, in my school, I've seen there are certain children where the struggle, because there are some children who are stuck in villages. So the struggle for technology is very much there. So now the problem that we are facing with them is, I'm sure this must be there in so many other schools, where the access to technology is missing. So that is where the hybrid learning has to come in now, once the pandemic settles down. The reason being that the ones who have all the technology with them, the right kind of Wi-Fi connection, the right kind of PC and laptops and everything, I think we can teach them at home. But the other small category, a small segment of society where the children cannot afford all these things, the parents can't afford right now. There are so many people who are out of job. They should be called to the school to work on it. That is what I have been feeling while all these couple of months that we've been working on. This is what we've been getting from the parents also. Now, when we are talking of, I was reading the class of 2021, I feel that they should not really feel that, they are lesser than anyone. In fact, they are going to be the pioneers of the new normal, what we've started using, a new term that has come into being thanks to COVID-19, the new normal. These children are going to actually make history. And that's what I'm telling the children while talking to them, that do not worry about your admissions. You are not the only ones. Everybody is sailing in the same boat. If the admission criteria is changing, I was reading St. Stephen also has made some changes. They are going in for online admissions, Delhi College, and they have said that they'll be having interviews. They've done away with the entrance exam. I feel that is what that kind of assessment has to come back, where we are looking forward to a letter of recommendation for each child. So the child has to start working on his profile. We have to keep this in mind that this can come back again. This is not the first time it has happened. It might come again. We have no clue that it's not going to come back. Once the vaccine is found, probably there'll be another virus coming in. So the children have to start, we have to start grooming the children to work on their profile, which normally they do when they enter +1, I've seen. They start creating their profile because they need to seek admission in some foreign college or the other. But now this has to begin from the primary. And deciding till class 8, our assessment pattern is in our hands. CBSE does not interfere. So we need to devise our own assessment pattern. We have to do away with those standardized kind of testing that we have, those FAs and essays, and we have to do away with that. We've actually started with that in junior classes. We do not have any formal exams till class 5. I do not have any formal exam till class 5. There's no essays for them. We have shorter tests where we have even encouraged children to work on projects. There's a project-based testing. And I think we need to, one another form of assessment that we have to look at is the OTB. If you remember, those who belong to the CC generation will be able to understand that we have to go back to the open textbooks testing. And that is the only way the testing at home probably will work. If you are just testing the concepts and knowledge, the cheating will happen. You can't avoid it. You can't prevent it. So, but the open textbooks, the research-based learning, maybe, your review of textbooks, review of a story, a novel, some quizzes, some puzzles. These are the new kind of assessments that we have to suddenly look at. We have to do away with the testing of concepts and rote learning and knowledge that we have to. And I'm quite happy that the education policy is being defined right now. I think there couldn't be a better time to make our education policy than now, because now the policymakers are going to keep this thing in mind, that there may be a time that the children may not be inside the school building to study. So I believe the assessment has to be defined by every educator, by every administrator till class 8 at least. Let's make define. And one thing I would like to add is here, the schools have to work together in collaboration. We are no longer competitors. We have to work in collaboration to find that, precise and an exact and a perfect assessment or evaluation pattern that will work best for our children, that will groom their personality, that works on their EQ, IQ, and SQ, which right now is badly affected because they're sitting at home, cooped up in the houses where the parents are not even letting them step out. So let's see how we work out on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ritu. Thank you so much. You were talking about the OBE, the open book exam. And yesterday the paper carried a big article wherein I think they tried it in the Delhi University and it went for a 6. So yes, it will take us a long time to bring in the change that we are looking at. Of course, we as schools, I think, have been successful in doing it earlier, maybe, or even better, because we are already into online last four months and having our assessments also. So this OB, the term brought this incident that yesterday the newspaper was full of that, and children were very, very disappointed. Thank you so much, Ritu. We now move to Mrs. Seema Behl. She's the principal, Brain International School, Vikaspuri. Over to you, Seema.
Sorry to barge in, ma'am, but with your permission and Seema ma'am's permission, can we
Oh,
have a
yes,
poll here?
yes.
Sure.
Sorry, we go, yes.
Thank you so much. So this is the last poll of the evening for our audiences out there. Can we have the poll, please? So it says, in a hybrid learning environment, do you think the parameters of evaluation needs to change? Yes, no, can't say. So Ritu ma'am, what would you like to say on this?
Definitely it has to change. The reason being, you are no longer, like I mentioned, you are no longer testing the children for the knowledge or the concept. Now we are going to test the children for their understanding of the concept, and more stress should be laid on the application of the concepts. Earlier, what we have been testing is the major stress has been on, understanding. So now we need to move towards the application. I think if we have a hybrid learning, then the application has to come in. And like ma'am said, the OTP that I'm talking about, it should be like we've taught a topic to a child. Then the text that we take up for the testing has to be related to it, not word to word or verbatim. That's what we have to be. And that's the only way we can control the cheating part.
Wonderfully said, ma'am. Thank you so much. Let's see what our audience have to say. Can we have the results, please? So 99% of them think yes, there needs to be a change in the parameter of evaluation in a hybrid learning environment. Thank you so much. Over to you, Seema ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Asta. I think it's already been spoken at length about how the onset of pandemic has sparked a global realization that there could be challenges unprecedented, which would require us to brace up to fight the adversity. I think even in these bleak times, this technology transition could be seen as a bright spot, as it's helped us to not only redefine and redesign our systems and review our perception, but also help us deconstruct the stereotypes of the society. The clear disruption in the normal functioning of education has placed a lot of emphasis on skills like resilience, adaptability, collaboration, communication, empathy, creativity, and emotional intelligence. We've graduated from rote learning to holistic learning, from teacher-centric to child-centric, from lecture to experiential learning. But here, another major concern is that whenever students would come back to school post-COVID, it's going to be fragmented learning with a lot of gaps, since we've got quite a few students who've not been able to be a part of online classes. So getting them up to the mark with the rest of them so that there's some equity is going to be challenging. We'll have to rethink learning in a big way, as we cannot use the traditional ways of learning anymore. It's become important to experiment and learn to create. So adaptive courseware blended with creative tools of teaching would make teaching learning process interesting. Although there's 32% increase in the interaction between the facilitators and the students during lockdown, but we cannot assume the job is done till the very last child is not brought to the mainstream. The whole system has to be capable of being reassuring and self-healing. For if a child isn't being able to cope up with anxiety, or he's living in fear, uncertainty, pressure, what's our education worth? A study was conducted in 194 cities across the world, and it was found that 50% of the total respondents reported moderate to severe levels of psychological difficulties due to the lockdown, and with about 16% suffering from symptoms of depression, 29% from anxiety, and 8% from stress. So consuming passive learning will prove to be very monotonous for students and would become based to the mental and emotional distress. As it is, we are in an obsessively assessment-based society, but then obsession with test scores comes at the expense of learning and does little to develop the students' critical thinking skills. So it makes perfect sense that here we shift to higher domains of Bloom's taxonomy levels, working towards achieving the learning outcomes, which are not getting their due, as the present system limits only to the first three levels of remember, understand, and to some extent apply. What is required here is that all the levels need to be tested by using appropriate techniques. Hence, the assignment and the assessment shall be in the form of test, quiz, review, etc. for the first three levels, and reports, experiments, models, projects, peer and self-assessment, class participation for the higher levels. This becomes even more important as learning in today's time demands 21st century skills, art integration, competency-based, and personalized learning. The 2021 exams might not be the kind of summatives that we've been conducting. They're going to be more application-based, more project-based. So our instructions cannot be content-driven. We cannot replicate physical classrooms online, but we'll have to actually engage the child. Only then will the ability and potential of the child be exhibited. So our report card should reflect the student's understanding of the concepts and achievements of learning outcomes through the learning process. The focus should be on whether the required learning has taken place or not. What are the lags? How do we fill up the lags? We can provide students with rubrics where they should be able to assess themselves and find out how much they've learned. What is wrong in this? So to reiterate, we are living in a time when the tempo of scientific knowledge and discovery is increasing by leaps and bounds. So the need of the hour is to have a system in place which shall fascinate the minds of students, encouraging them to become effective self-learners and critical thinkers with high adaptive skills. A system which shall explore the strengths, identify fortes, reward efforts, and broaden the viewpoints, giving a huge sense of accomplishment, translating students into a productive force with not only higher EQ, IQ, and SQ, but AQ as well, which is the adversary quotient. So only then can we ensure a holistic or a 360-degree development of the child. This is what I needed to say. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Seema. Thank you for putting so many things across. I mean, amazing. I think critical thinking and creative skills and our art integration are all the 21st century skills now which we need to develop in our children. Thank you so much. We now move to Mrs. Sudeshna Sharma. She's the principal of the Banyan Tree School, Chandigarh. Over to you, Sudeshna, and for your views, please.
Thank you, Dhriti ma'am. First of all, thanks to Rocksport for organizing getting us onto such a platform where we can actually discuss, share, and exchange our ideas. Having said this, I think all the panelist members have made it very easy for me because they've covered most of the points which, we as educators think about it. Yes, of course, last couple of months were a litmus test for all of us. When the uncertainty of lockdown has pushed the domain into a virtual gear overnight. I strongly feel that, from classroom to online teaching, it was actually exemplary overnight. It was actually done overnight. And for that, kudos to all the teachers and educators who have not looked back once. Coming to the main discussion for today, yes, I totally agree to what Seema ma'am said just now. I think in the previous webinar, we were discussing about EQ versus IQ. So we need to train the young minds what is AQ. It is a very common saying, जीतने के बाद plans पता होता है, but हारने के बाद किसी को पता नहीं कि what they are supposed to do. So we need to train the children what is adversary quotient. We need to strike a balance also between safety and learning. We need to see that what children have understood, it is not what we have taught. Conceptual learning, application-based learning, research methodology are very important. The focus now should be subject enrichment. That is the need of the hour. In today's crisis, we have to see that how much a child is able to understand what is the concept and whether they are able to apply the concept or not. We have to do away, of course, as we were all discussing about hybrid learning or blended learning, we need to have that traditional approach, but totally learning a topic, giving question answers and putting it in very simple words learning a topic, giving question answers from that lesson. That subjective learning we have to do away with, and thus rote learning. We cannot go with rote learning anymore. It has to be why we are taking up critical and creative learning, why we are giving, it's playing a very vital role. It is, we have to see that how much concept they are able to understand. We need to train the young minds critically and analytically. That is the most important thing. The testing tools, technology, it has become pervasive in our life. So the testing tools are also in practice. Yes, it is again a challenge for us that the children who are sitting in villages, how are they going to get access to it? But we have to find out some way. So for this concept and analytical research methodology, we can assess the children on that. As teachers, as parents, we can, give them wings to the children to explore. But we have to remember one thing, that numbers should not be the weightage. Finally, what we were doing till this time, that it is only based on marks, we were assessing whether a child is good or bad. That cannot be done anymore. We have to understand that if a child is moving out from school, going to college, going for job, the jobs are not sufficient enough to match the demand. So we need to groom the young minds in that way. So I feel that asynchronous learning, that is also very important, that which we need to focus on it. Intrinsic motivation should be done. So the entire assessment system we need to change. We need to focus more on analytical approach, research methodology, concept and application-based learning. This is what our assessment of a child should be. And to begin with, what ma'am initially said, that the fear of exams, we have to make the children understand that the exam is just not one book. They have to go beyond books. I'll just end it with a simple example. In our school, I have totally, I've told the teachers and the parents that they are not going to buy books. They are absolutely not going to buy books. If we have to teach language, or if we have to teach anything, cognitive skills, or maybe maths or language, why do we need a book? If we have to teach grammar, let the child think and go beyond books. And let the child frame questions rather than we teaching them 5 sums of fraction from the book and giving 10 sums homework and another 5 sums as tests. That cannot be done. So we need to motivate the children in that way, start in that way. And I'm sure with all of us together, with all talented educators, I'm sure we would be making a difference very soon in future. That is all I have to say. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sudeshna. That was short and crisp, right? So we have heard each one of you speaking on our topic, which is a report card of the new normal. We have deliberated on rethinking examinations. Okay, is it the right way that we are going? Was it the right way that we were going earlier? Or again, we have to look for different ways and means to assess rather than going back to the traditional. We kind of blend them, right? Then we still need to deliberate a little on the college admissions, because are our children ready for admissions, and are they in the right frame to choose what is right or what is wrong for them, or what would be beneficial to them, is again one deliberation we still need to do a little bit. Of course, the road ahead for class 2021 is challenging, but let me also tell you that this batch of 2021 has had immense possibilities, because the online platform has helped them to be more progressive and flexible in their approach. And of course, a lot of them are involved in multiple activities now. Even we ourselves, we as teachers, teaching, yes, but we are also multitasking. We are doing a lot more than we usually did in a physical school. So the class of 2021 is definitely a challenging class, a class where they end up learning a lot. You know, I was listening to what Sundar Pichai, the Google and the Alphabet CEO, had to say to the young children, the graduating children of 2021, where he said, be open, be impatient, and be hopeful. What is now will not stay. He was giving what is now will not prevail, but you will prevail. He was giving the examples of the 100 years ago, there was an epidemic, but the batch of 1920 did graduate. Then he was talking about the 50 years ago, a class of 1970, which graduated in the midst of the Vietnam War. Then he was talking about 20 years ago when the class of 2001 graduated in the year of 9/11, the attack at the US. So again, we need to be a little open, definitely, and definitely our children of today have seen the times which again each one of us, none of us rather, had seen in our lifetimes. So they've been exposed to a time where definitely there is a bit of negativity as far as COVID goes, but there are so many positives that the children can learn from these times. And of course, we also talked about the ideal assessment system, wherein we are also where we feel that there could be a blended approach also, and there could be a hybrid approach also. So thank you all the panelists. It was great discussing all these topics with you. And I think again, as educationists, this is what we are constantly thinking about when we are running our schools, when we are talking about assessments, when we are also thinking about our children who are going to be graduating this year. There are all these thoughts that keep coming in our mind. Okay, how do we do it? When do we do it? And of course, what are the possibilities beyond? So thank you so much. Over to you, Astha.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now it's time for the Q&A round. We will be taking live questions after the first round of the Q&A session, which is Dhriti ma'am would like to ask some of the questions from the Q&A box to our panelists. Since we are running short of time, I would request all the panelists to answer in quick 60 seconds if possible. So, Dhriti ma'am, please start the Q&A round. Thank you.
Okay. So the first question that came across in the chat box was, one of the questions rather, what can be a practical approach to the pointers for report card in the new normal? Who would like to answer? I'll give the choice to you. Would anyone like to answer this, please? What can be a practical approach to the pointers for report card in the new normal? What is it in a report card that we are looking at, actually?
Actually, basically, I want to reply there. Basically, first of all, we are supposed to understand not the report card. We are supposed to understand what is learning is there.
Yes.
Right now, learning, previously we are doing learning for technology. Now we are doing learning with technology. As you already, all the panelists very well said, we are supposed to create the knowledge building instead of knowledge acquisition. So here I can say the report card is as in 21 March 20 February March 21, you can say, or the 2021 session. We are supposed to promote the learning to the autonomous learning, basically. Autonomous learning should be the autonomous assessment also, you can say. And autonomous assessment also creates a research-based learning also. So here the report card should be the autonomous learning, where practical skills should be there, where 21st century skills should be there. For that purpose, basically NCERT as well as CBSE is focusing on that. So we are supposed to do for that basically. Instead of using the technology only for reading the things, that is not sufficient. Right now, we are supposed to use the technology for learning purposes. We are supposed to give the openness to the students also, the teachers also, to the parent also, how to use the technology for their learning ability, how to improve these things, and they can create something. As we have our own school motto, they are saying educate, innovate, and create something. So we are giving only the education. Basically, we are giving the facility to the child, so they can innovate something, so they can create something in the future, and they can create their good future also. We are not giving the report card, basically 100 out of 100. Basically, we are creating something good for the good citizenship. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. The next question is, please throw some light on the research analysis. Is it applicable at primary level? I think one of the panelists did talk about creating. I think it was Ritu.
Dhriti.
Yeah.
It is not for primary. It cannot be done at primary. They need to understand that it actually begins from the middle school onwards. Middle school still can take up a little bit of research work, and kids are pretty good at it, but not till primary. Though I've seen in class 5, the kids are still able to manage depending upon what is the level that you decide. But till class 4, I think we cannot have research-based testing. But yes, I've seen till class 5 onward, it does work. The only thing is, the teacher who's assigning the task has to keep the age group in mind. And I'm sure it can be done. And you don't even...
Madam, sorry to interrupt you. I want to add one thing more here.
Yes.
Learning by doing basically is the research. Basically.
Yes.
That is called the experiential learning also.
Experiential learning. It's part of the
teaching. Learning by doing, for that purpose, we are supposed to start with the game way method, for the joy way method. That's why we are not saying to give the class totally a full time on the basically laptop or the Zoom classes. Basically.
Yes, that's true.
For only hardly 1 hour. For that purpose, we are supposed to create learning by doing, and we are supposed to, instead of taking, you are supposed to keep the 5 E's basically. I had actually explained in the earlier also. And what is that 5 E's basically? I want to explain again. That is basically technology, new pedagogy we are supposed to use for the online learning in all the classes, I can say. And which is done by for the education for the Krishna also in the Mathura Vrindavan, basically when he was in Ujjain, he got all the education in Ujjain. So 64 kalas and whatever the 4 Vedas and sub Vedas they had read, that was marvelous, you can say. And what is this 5 E's basically I am supposed to explain here. That 5 E's, first of all, you engage the child. When you engage the child, instead of giving any topic, any subject, subjectivity should be different basically. First you engage the child in any of the things. Let us assume I want to get some numbers out. First you engage the child and explore it. So the child can explore what he actually has done and what he is doing basically. When he will explore, automatically he will make plus or minus basically. Then you explain the topic. Before that, subjectivity cannot be discussed with the children basically. First you engage and explore the child, automatically the topic will be understood by the child in a
right, sir. And that
then
can probably come at any age.
Then elaborate and evaluate. Evaluation should be very separately. Thank you, ma'am.
I would just like to add here. So, in our school, when we did that, so for the juniors, for the little ones, it is guided research where you give them the roadmap and certain steps to be followed. Then it is partially guided as you move to classes 3 and 4, 3, 4, 5. And then it is, you teach them how to do research because we conducted those workshops for our teachers and for our children. And then they moved on. So, the level of research can vary, but research, I believe, can be done at every stage and step of this.
It can also be called as a collaborative problem solving, which can be given to the children, and they can do it as of together. How do they get this problem solved? And this will also, enhance their skills. So that can be also done. And I think every year, everybody knows that PISA is one of the tests that goes on. And we are somewhere ranking very much low because our children, what they are generally weak in is the application of what they have learned. So we need to grill our children basically with the application methodology of what they have learned. It is not what to learn, but rather how to learn we have to teach our children.
That's what Dr. Mishra pointed out. Learning by doing.
Learning by doing. That's experiential learning. In fact, what
And
you look at is the CC pattern was exactly on these lines.
Yes.
And we probably need to reinvent the CC program once again. That's all.
And I feel all schools are doing a lot of work on hands-on and experiential learning, but probably it hasn't got its due in the report card, which is much needed now.
Yes, that is what the new report card has to be like, where it's not only what the child has learned and written that has to be assessed, it is how the child has interpreted and applied.
And I would just like to say one thing, that generally too often schools and colleges have measured what easily is measurable and not what's meaningful for being measured. So what we have we have been doing is just we measure what is easily measurable. So we need to focus now upon what's meaningful for success. So we have to judge those parameters in children, that what is meaningful for actually success, and that is where the application pedagogy goes. So we have to move on and switch on. And I think with respect to that, the report card, as you said, of the new normal, the CBSE should also look into it, that now this coming up time, the testing parameters or the examination parameters or the pedagogy that we'll be using for evaluating children should be changed, which requires a great paradigm shift. Ma'am said, very well said, that EQ, SQ and IQ we generally talk of, but this pandemic needs to focus upon more on adversity question. If we as schools and parents don't come together and teach our children that what is AQ all about, which is really required at this point of time, things are not going to be resolved, because mental health is our priority at this point of time, whether it is parents, whether it is teachers, or whether it is our students. So we need to focus that our children as well as parents know and need to come out of this pandemic in a smiling way. So we need to work upon the AQ question as well. So that will be one of the parameters for success in future.
Thank you. And my last question is to you, Anuradha. May I?
Please. Yeah.
How much weightage do you think should be given to formative, summative, and skills and value? That is again a question put by the audience. How much weightage do you think should be given to formative, summative, skills and value?
So definitely formative assessment is assessment for learning. That's what I was talking about. And according to me, it is very, very important. It should have a larger component of assessment, because for a teacher to continuously assess a child, help the child improve and see a constant evolution in the learning curve of the child. So that only can happen through formative assessment. So that should have about, at least 40% of it should go in that direction. As far as skills and values are concerned, I think skill building is very, very important. Probably, rather than categorizing it in terms of grades, it has to be something which is more evidence-based. The only way that we have is not everything cannot be put as ABC grades. Engaging children in community projects, making children, giving them responsibility of various areas in school. And on that, the child submitting an evidence, the child creating a portfolio out of it. And from that, the teacher giving her remarks on how these quotients are developing in the children. I think that is an added part that we should have, because we were just talking of self-appraisals, letter of recommendation. Now, portfolio and profile building, I was going through certain websites. So that's not something that we have to start at 11th and 12th. Right from class nursery, KG, the evidences of learning can be easily put together. And, with that comes the value quotient. Again, for that, you can have programs like in our school, we have a program called Gracious Goenka, where every child does a little bit of a self-reflection on the values which are very core and primary for that particular age group. And then we award one child every month as the Gracious Goenka of the month for that section. So these are some things which, they are not typically part of your year-end report card, but these are ongoing programs which should continue year on year build up. And probably a child goes out of school with a bunch of, a record of all these evolutions in terms of the life skill building and the value development of the child. So that is my view on this. I hope I have been able to answer.
ये बंद कर.
Sorry. Okay. Okay. So we sum it up. Thank you, all the panelists. We now sum up the discussions, and I would. Yes.
I'm sorry to barge in, but there is one more question which I would like Seema ma'am to answer.
Yes, please put it on, please.
Yeah. So, ma'am, the question is, will the students of 2020 batch be at loss while choosing their career options?
No,
I don't think
I
so.
think also, in India, authorities are trying to sync the results and admissions. We cannot totally negate the effect of pandemic for the ones planning to go overseas for studies. See, those who've got admissions in universities abroad for the fall 2020 are facing a slew of challenges. On top of their mind is just one question: whether they'll be able to set foot in the school they've been preparing for months on end or not. But I think the best thing to do here is to defer their admissions for spring 2021. And also the first semester classes would be conducted online and students will have to stay back in their home country. But I would say 6 months or a semester gap, it's not going to make much of a difference. They shouldn't get disheartened. Rather, they should try to do some online courses that could help them bridge the gap and acquire a new skill set. So optimum utilization of time should be the mantra rather than focusing on what is beyond our control. And I would like to just end with this couplet कि जब टूटने लगे हौसले तो याद रखना बिना मेहनत के हासिल तक तो ताज नहीं होते ढूंढ लेना अंधेरों में भी अपनी मंजिल क्योंकि जुगनू कभी रोशनी के मोहताज नहीं होते. So they'll find their way out. I'm sure of it.
Wonderful, Seema. Wonderful. Asta, do you have any more questions?
No, ma'am. We would be now going towards the live questions for the evening.
All right.
So now we would be taking live questions from the audience. That means if you want to ask a question to any one of our panelists here, raise your hands and we will unmute you. I repeat, if you want to ask any question from our panelists out here, please raise your hand. There is a button, the icon that is at the bottom of your screen which says raise hand, and we will unmute you. So we have Monica Verma, Miss Monica Verma. Can we please unmute her? All right, Miss Monica, welcome. You are now unmuted. Please ask your question and kindly direct it to the panelists you would like to ask.
Good evening, ma'am and sir. Thanks for giving me a chance to put up my question. Ma'am, my question is that we are doing the online classes nowadays. And when it comes to online, we have to cut down on the content because otherwise when there were school days, we were getting more periods, like 20 periods at least in a month for one particular subject. And now we are getting just 10. And that too online, we have to take care of the students' attention span also. So can we cut down the syllabus somewhat, or we have to, means how to go about it? If we have to take whole syllabus, then shall we just restrict the topics, but we can't control the questions of the students. They are curious, they want to ask more and more questions. So how to go about it, ma'am and sir?
Can I
Monica,
answer?
ma'am, thank you for your question. Which panelist would you like to have to answer this question?
Dhriti ma'am is saying she will answer. Please, ma'am, please go ahead.
All right, I did not listen. Please, ma'am, go ahead.
This is a usual question by every teacher. Oh, how will I finish my course? See, again, we are going through a time where even the NCERT, everybody's aware of it, and they're already working on cutting down on 30% of the syllabus. And again, I think learning never stops. Learning, you are worried about children asking you questions. They will, they are inquisitive. And I think in a short period, even if you were getting 10 periods and now you're getting 5, online, I feel, because what I have seen in my school is that the teachers are able to fulfill all the requirements. Children are inquisitive, they will ask questions. So as a teacher, never be bothered about finishing up with your courses.
Agreed,
Please.
ma'am.
Yes, make sure that whatever you teach is effective and it goes to the core. That is my answer to her. And again, don't worry about the syllabus. Nobody's going to,
Nobody's going
nail you up. Okay, why didn't you do this or why didn't you do that? Nobody's going to do that. Nobody.
Can I add one more thing, Dhriti ma'am, here? What we've started now is we have one day, assigned in the week for every subject teacher. We have started working on, the certain Saturdays that we used to have off. That day has been assigned as a doubt clearing. So that day, only those children get into the class, those who had some queries regarding the classes that have been held.
That is happening everywhere. Yes.
And we've increased 5 to 10 minutes. Earlier, we were having just 30 minutes class because on parents' request. Now we made it 45 minutes. Now every day, like Monday, if a topic has been taught, then Tuesday class, first 10 minutes are assigned to purely clearing the doubts of the children, what was taught yesterday. So something like that can be started by Miss Monica. I'm sure this will help her. And I agree with Riti ma'am that syllabus completion should be the last thing in your mind right now. We have to know what is going to be part of the syllabus and what is going to be taken away. But learning has got nothing to do with CBSE setting a benchmark that you have to do these 7 chapters and 8 chapters. And if they learn a little extra, I've been telling the children, I say, if you learn a little extra, it's going to help you only. It's not going to be a disadvantage at all. And that's what every teacher has to work with. Even we are getting these queries from the teachers. Ma'am, what if I've taught this chapter? It is no longer part of the syllabus. I say, so what? The child has learned something. It's going to benefit him somewhere or the other. There's no loss in learning extra, at least. So the teachers have to stop worrying about the syllabus completion. That's the last thing we need to worry about. And there, we as principals have to play a major role. We have to let the teachers know that we are not going to nail them if they are unable to finish the syllabus within the given time. That's what we have to convince. We have to win that kind of confidence of our teachers.
Okay.
Thank you so much,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Add one thing I want to add, because this question is not fully addressed as the teacher is asking, and we are the pedagogical leader. We are saying this thing. Monica wants to ask a 2-part. Actually, I want to understand that thing. Monica is asking whether the syllabus is reduced or not. Monica, your question is very good, and question syllabus is going to be reduced as per the Secretary CBSE, as per the Director Academics. They are working on that, and approximately 25 to 30% syllabus is going to be reduced, but not the complete lesson. Part of the lesson which is not so much related, that is going to be detected. Number 1. Number 2, how you are going to complete the syllabus. Now you are supposed to change your pedagogy. Earlier, you are doing the rote learning method. You are doing it, taking all the lesson in the whole classroom, basically. Now you assign the task to the students so that you take the task from the students more time. You engage the child more as compared to engaging yourself in the task. Instead of taking your time more in the classroom, then you cannot complete the syllabus. You try to engage the child more so that they can do something and they ask the problem.
Dr.
Don't
Mishra,
solve all the problem in the class.
Can I add one thing?
And you can solve this thing.
I think give it a try. Flipped classroom is something that we tried a couple of years back. That's what you need to bring it into your teaching now.
Social justice with the pedagogy we are supposed to do here.
Yes, that's
yes,
social
justice
basically. Classroom will definitely help.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Mishra. Over to you, Asta.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Next, we would like to have another one of our attendees, and we have Miss Garima Gupta with us here. So kindly unmute Garima Gupta, ma'am, please. Ma'am, you are unmuted. Welcome. Please ask your question. Hello, Garima ma'am. You are not audible to us. You are unmuted.
Okay, yeah. Hi, good evening to everyone. And thank you so much, all the principals, for engaging us and enlightening us with a lot of new things. Before that, I would like to speak about, I love when principals talk about, learning is in the center of whatever we are doing and stuff. That's a key thing which I hear from all the principals. But how does it trickle down in the real system? The formative assessments are created, the summative assessments are created beforehand, and a teacher has to finish A, B, C till D till a certain point of time, and there's no negotiation. The school I work in, there is a weekend homework that is created. No matter how much of an inquiry I do in my class, but the thing is, I'll have to bring my class to the level so that they're able to attempt the weekend homework. So, and on to my question now. All you people have spoken about 21st century skills, and they are so important. One person moves out of the university, moves out of the college, goes to the real life, takes up a job, and finds whatever he or she has been taught is not used in that job, because what is taught in the real life is not what is taught in the universities and the colleges is not applicable in the job. So, what are we doing as the heads of the institute to incorporate these skills? Because if we have 22 chapters in social studies, 20 chapters in science, these many chapters in this, how are we incorporating? How are we? Because till the time we don't practice these skills in the classroom, the children will not be able to adapt to it. We can create our assessments on the lines of this, that okay, the formative assessments I'm going to take, I'll probably ask them to create or evaluate, or I'm taking the higher order skills into thought process. But for that, are we actually thinking and making room in our curriculum so that these skills can be practiced in class first and then assessed later? Thank you.
Can I answer that question?
Yeah, thank you.
So yes, I mean, especially as we go to higher classes, there is always that, syllabus completion, which is a task. But if you're talking of the skills and preparation of children for the real world, it can be done. Now, I'll give you an example of how we are doing in our school. So we've created a program which we call as I Discover Me. So it is part of our timetable. And as part of that program, right from class 9, we are introducing our children to different career options and the skill set which are essential for that career. We are inviting people from that field to come and share with children, what the life is going to be. What is the desired kind of value system that you require? Let's say if you want to be an educationist, if you wish to be a doctor, if you wish to be an engineer, or if you want to pursue any career. Now, through that experience of life, because, ultimately what I want to do in life, it's not about success, it's about happiness. So my happiness will always lie in being in sync with what I'm doing. As an educationist, as a teacher, unless I love coming to school every day, I will not be able to do justice. So giving an insight into what matters in a particular profession, how you have to prepare yourself, conducting an aptitude test for that, giving children an experience of that industry. Now, these are the kind of things when you do, through that, you are helping the child discover what he or she is best at. What is it that will intrinsically motivate the child? And therefore, the child starts moving in the direction of developing those skill sets. You don't have to do it in a classroom in particular. They will come out. It's just that you have to give that experience and exposure to children. So when we give that kind of an experience, we do their testing, we make them do self-reflection. And that's when then they go in for internships. And with those experiences, they come back and they're pretty clear in their head that this is where I have to head. They charter their roadmap. You can't handhold children. They are unique individuals. So all you have to do is open those doors for them. And therefore, they will move on that path. And we've seen the results coming that way. So according to me, this is a solution that we believe in. There would be multiple solutions. There is not no one solution. Every institution can find their unique solution.
Radha ma'am, I would just like to add on that, as ma'am said, you have to judge. They are all unique individuals. In schools, we have a lot of scope. As teachers, when you enter class, it is not about that you design this specific program for students who are doing classes 9 and 12. I say, supposingly you are teaching profit and loss. Give your children the school canteen for a day and ask them to run it for a day. Ask them to arrange the things, buy the things, and do it practically and see what basically profit and loss is. How they can manage it, their managerial skills can be judged. Apart from that, if you don't want to indulge them in a cooking, do it with dry snacks and ask them to arrange all the things and do it practically. Moreover, you yourself as teachers, you have crossed and you are working as a teacher right now. You can also talk about your journey as a professional. What was required? How is your particular specialization in your vertical leading to other specializations and other job opportunities which are open in the world? As teachers, you can talk about your own journeys. It is not that we need specialized people. Yes, we do need, we will call off parents. We can have career guidance programs. We can call them for talk shows. We can have career guidance seminars and all. But then your library is also a kind of input. You can have your own setup in the school, which is called as a career resource room, where you can have a small CCTV or a projector or something like where the children can on a big screen see biographies. They can read book about biographies and different successful people and know their what were their success inputs, how did they derive success in their lives. So that can also be a very motivating factor for them. In school, generally we plan this from classes 9 and 12, but this brainstorming should start from class 6, 5, where you need to talk them in short bursts and guide them that these are the basic skills we want to, you are open to. We take our children to tours and different visits, but why don't we take them to different industries and see how they are working? What is the basic ideology, how they are working, what are the skills required for working in this kind of a particular industry, and just engage them into a discussion with the leading persons of those industries. I think that can also be a great help, and you can plan and do all these things within the school limits, which will not require your extra time, and this can be done within your school library periods, as well as it is every school takes out the children for a yearly trip, and these trips can just be changed from normal school trips to little vocational oriented school trips. So I think that can be a learning lesson also.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. Astha, is there any more question or do we wind up now?
No, ma'am.
We wind up.
No more questions, ma'am.
So I would like to wind up with a quote by Leon C. Megginson. It goes, it is not the strongest or the most intelligent who will survive, but those who can best manage change. And we are in that state of change. So thank you to all the panelists. Thank you to the lovely audience. Thank you to Rocksport. I mean, I feel it was a fantastic session. Over to you, Astha.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So as this great discussion comes to an end, I would like to thank all the panelists for taking out time and making this an enriching discussion. It was an honor to have you all here with us. Thank you, Dhriti ma'am. Thank you, Mandavi ma'am. Thank you, Seema ma'am. Thank you, CB sir. Thank you, Anuradha ma'am. Thank you, Ritu ma'am. Thank you, Sudeshna ma'am. I think that she disconnected because of some technical issues, but it was great having you all here with us. I would also like to thank all the audiences out there for joining us. Please follow us on our Facebook to know more details about the upcoming webinars. The next webinar is scheduled on Wednesday, 8 July, 5 to 6 p.m. Do not forget to register yourself. You can use the link given on our FB page. Our FB page link has been shared in chat with you all. Thank you once again. Wishing you a great evening. Stay home, stay safe, stay connected. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Astha.
Okay,
Thank
bye-bye.
you.
Thank you so much, Astha.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you, Dhriti ma'am.
Thanks
Thank you,
all of
Seema
you.
ma'am.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Thank you, Anuradha ma'am.
Thank you, everyone. Pleasure.
Thank you. Pleasure. Same
Thank
here.
you, Ritu ma'am.
Thank you.
Pleasure.